So here's my argument. A nation that eliminates its borders is nothing more than a region. You can't have a government with limited taxation based on that region, but spreads its resources indefinitely. You can't have an open border and a welfare state. There is now a brewing legal fight that has the potential, unfortunately, to morph into something more between the Biden administration and the Abbott administration. And a growing number of states are backing the Texas effort to secure their landmass along the southern border. And there's a little graphic there of the states that are joining Texas. We talked about this top of the show. Joe Biden has allowed an estimated 10 million people to cross the border illegally. That's a big number. And they're distributed all over the interior, all at taxpayer expense: food, shelter, healthcare, education. This purposeful failure has created havoc in many American cities and states, mostly in the ones that declare themselves sanctuary cities and states. Now, I don't want to cover the screen with every single line of text relevant in the Constitution. We'll do that, but let me just speed this up a little bit. Article 1, Section 8 grants the Congress the sole power to make laws regarding naturalization. Article 1, Section 9 relieves the states of their power to import people. Article 4, Section 4 obligates the federal government, obligates by law, to secure the national borders and protect each state from invasion. In the absence of any effort to prevent mass waves of illegal border crossings, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has sent the Texas National Guard to the border, only to have the Biden administration use force to block Texas's effort to secure itself. The Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, has ruled that DHS has the authority to remove any barrier to entry placed in the path of people trying to enter the country illegally by the state of Texas. Joe Biden is in clear violation of his oath. This is not something that's optional. In Article 2, Section 1, Clause 8, the president says, "I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States." Here's a look at the letter that Abbott issued to Biden. We'll just talk about it, right? Texas is asserting a power found in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Constitution. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, from the National Constitution Center, a nonprofit organization devoted to the study of the Constitution, located at the Independence Mall in Philadelphia, fun fact, Neil Gorsuch is the former chairman. But what is noted concerning the test of that clause, quote, and I quote the National Constitution Center, "It's worth noting that the Union was considered sufficiently fragile that Section 10, Clause 3 allows for the states to engage in war, waiving the requirement of congressional consent in cases of imminent danger. Indeed, these military issues loomed large in the founding period because Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16, and Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 also contain detailed provisions for the maintenance of state militias and the circumstances under which they could also be called into the service of the United States. Lastly, the guarantee clause of Article 4, Section 4 deals primarily with the threat of an invasion for which either congressional or presidential intervention is contemplated. The mechanics of all of these provisions are exceedingly complex, and none are set out in the Constitution." This is the legal ground that Governor Abbott is sitting on. And I say sitting to respect the fact that he's in a wheelchair. So here's what we have. We have a Democrat Party that wants no enforcement. I've said it a million times. You can't bring there to here without here becoming there. You cannot import this level of poverty from impoverished nations without turning the United States into an impoverished nation in the process. But see, It's so easy for the people in Washington, D.C., and the seven-figure members of the media who aren't going to be touched by this. I mean, if there were really hot Spanish-speaking, English-speaking, bilingual reporters, weather girls running across the border taking jobs at CNN, I could tell you they'd be down there building the wall themselves. That's the thing. And as I said earlier, and I say this with all respect, I don't want to come across as being conceited or condescending. I wanted to be in radio as early as third grade. Many people set out on a career path. Some people want to be in the military. Some people want to go to college. Some people want to start a business, be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, right? Police officer, firefighter, EMT, whatever it is. But millions of people in this country see a job, see work as just a means to an end, a way to support themselves. And many of those people fill the ranks of the labor force. Now, some people acquire skills in that process. They get promotions, they get job training, they make more money in the process. But as I said earlier, an American citizen who simply wants to work a job to support themselves and their family should not be under the constant threat and pressure from the global workforce seeking employment in the United States. Does that sound a bit protectionist? Perhaps. Is it true that immigration can offset a rise in the cost of labor? Yeah, in an expanding economy, not when you have high inflation and layoffs. And we have both. And the threat we're getting from the Biden administration is that they're going to have to raise taxes to offset the cost of the border, not raise taxes for the purpose of funding programs to support we the people, like low-income Americans or homeless Americans getting off the streets. We have our own poor people. But the Democrats are dead set on importing tens of millions of poor people, giving them citizenship and allowing them to sponsor even more family members. If Joe Biden gets reelected, the 10 million, another 4 years will be 20 million. 20 million people voting with citizenship and the ability to sponsor more family members. That'll be 50, 60 million people in less than a decade. There is one man sitting in the way of all of this, and that's Greg Abbott. A nation cannot continue as a nation if it does not enforce its borders and uphold its sovereignty. And as I said at the top of this, you cannot have a government with a limited jurisdiction for taxation, but an unlimited number of people who expect to receive something from that government. We must secure the border now, and it's not going to get secured as long as Biden is president. And that's my argument.